So today we're talking about another interesting principle that I read about in the personal MBA, and I'll go ahead and throw up a screenshot of the ebook on the screen right now. But this principle is called hedonic adaptation, and hedonic adaptation kind of explains, well, puts a word to why entrepreneurs like myself and hopefully yourself sometimes can struggle with happiness, and why we're never satisfied with what we have and what we're achieving, and why we're always setting new goals for us to achieve. And this is a feeling that I've always had, especially throughout the last couple of years where I've taken entrepreneurship and reaching my goals more seriously. But I've always struggled to put words on it and to actually explain the principle before I read the Personal MBA, where Josh Kaufman really talks about hedonic adaptation and what the hedonic treadmill is, which I'll go more in depth with later on in the video. But if you are an entrepreneur like myself, you'll know this feeling of setting a goal, achieving that goal, being satisfied with what you've achieved for maybe a month, maybe a week, and maybe just a few days, and then you want more, right? So this can either be like materialistic, it can be something tangible, but it could also be something like getting your first client for your social media marketing agency. So for example, let's take a car, right? Your biggest goal is to get a Lamborghini, right? And so you work hard and finally you achieve that goal. You actually are able to purchase Lamborghini, and then you're really happy with that car for maybe a week, maybe even a month. And then after a month, you've gotten used to what you've achieved. You've gotten used to having that thing in your life. You've gotten used to the luxury of having that thing in your life. And now you want more. And this can also be said for getting your first SMA client, right? So it's fun. When I got the first client for my social media marketing agency, paying around $2,000 a month, a lot of my friends told me, like, well, they said to me, well, why don't you just stop here? Why don't you just keep that one client and take that $2,000 a month and live your life, enjoy your life, hang out with your friends, and don't do too much work and just have a good income flowing in. And that's not how we entrepreneurs think, right? Probably after a week, the first week after I got my first client, I was really happy, I was really satisfied. And then after a couple of days, after a week, I was like, I need more clients, right? I've gotten used to having that income of $2,000 a month. I want more. I want 2 clients. I want 3 clients. I want 5 clients. And so that's where hedonic adaptation turns into the hedonic treadmill, right? Because the cycle repeats. You set a goal, you achieve that goal, you get whatever you wanted, you're no longer satisfied with that thing, and you set a new goal, achieve it, get that thing, and the cycle repeats, and this turns into a treadmill called the hedonic treadmill. And so the hedonic treadmill explains why a lot of entrepreneurs, including myself, just aren't as happy in some periods of our life, because we're never really satisfied with what we have and what we're achieving. And so it's a bit funny, because when you look up how to combat the hedonic treadmill and hedonic adaptation, you'll find a lot of experts talking on this area, and usually what they'll say is money contributes to happiness to a certain extent. And in the US, studies shows that money contributes to the happiness to the point of making $75,000 a year. And over the 75K a year mark, something called diminishing returns start. And diminishing returns means that for every dollar you make above the 75K a year mark, will have less utility in your life and will bring less happiness into your life. And so experts actually recommend just working to make enough, right? They recommend working to make exactly $75,000 a year, and then stopping there and relaxing for the rest of your time. But I know that my mind doesn't function like that, and I know I'll never be able to stop at any certain mark. I will always keep going because I will always want more, and I guess that kind of is the entrepreneur spirit. And so I guess the way I've learned to combat the hedonic adaptation and the hedonic treadmill is to sometimes, when I'm in these periods where I'm not feeling as happy, I'm cutting it down to the core, right? I'm seeing what is it that truly essentially makes me happy, and that is productivity, making progress with my business. That is the core of what makes me happy. And so I just look at the situation from a bit of an ironic standpoint, and I go back to the basics. So what is it that makes me happy? Well, that is work, that is progressing with my business. And so I just get back on my grind, and that surprisingly, that is actually what will make me happy again. But of course, there are also other ways to combat hedonic adaptation. So if I want to get my mind completely off my work and off my business, I like to focus on personal development, right? So usually what I do is I meditate every single day, I run every single day. Of course, not every single day, but usually like 6 days a week. I'll be meditating in the morning, I'll be running in the morning, and I work out approximately 3-4 times a week. So just doing some of these personal development things will really help to take your mind off of your business And honestly, these things never get boring in my opinion. It's something you can always work on. You know, you can always work on your health, both physically and mentally. So meditation for your mental health, and you know, running and working out for your physical strength, right? So there's these personal development things are something that never gets boring in my opinion, and so those are what I like to focus on if I feel like I am in one of those periods where hedonic adaptation is getting the better of me. So if you have ever felt like hedonic adaptation and the hedonic treadmill has gotten the better of you, well then I hope this video shed some light and gave you some insight on what hedonic adaptation is, so that next time you have this feeling, you actually know what you're experiencing and you know how to combat it. So I really hope you got some value out of this video, and I'll see you in the next one.